100% entertainment, 100% electricity, 100%.
Pipebomb Radio with your host, Felix Olmedo.
Be the man. You gotta beat the man.
Austin James.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
And Nate Milton.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday night. Well, early evening. Nonetheless, we're coming to you earlier as, well, we do every once in a great while to accommodate our guests that have come in this week. And what the hell was that, Austin? Oh, well, I guess we lost Austin. He was on for a moment. But nonetheless, we have a special guest joining us this week, former WWE/TNA star Trevor Murdoch, who will be calling in just a bit. I'm missing my guys here. They'll be calling here in just a little bit as well. Got a lot to talk about, and not very much time to do. So we'll see what we can make do with what we got. We'll be commenting on Monday Night Raw, what's coming up at Fastlane, the hype. You know, is there enough hype for the Fastlane pay-per-view coming up? You know, we got to see two WWE Hall of Famers appear on Raw this past Monday, last night. And not to mention, of course, I know Austin said he had got a chance to finally watch the China interview that she did with Vince Russo, and he's got to share his comments about it. As I mentioned, I recommend it if you haven't seen it. I believe he's released it on his website, pyroandballyhoo.com, and I recommend it. It's a good interview. It's, you know, people are going to have their viewpoints on it and so forth. Everybody's got an opinion, you know, but therefore we'll talk about it. Austin's going to probably share his thoughts, I'm sure. I'm sure he's got a lot to say about it.
Mm-hmm. You always have a lot to say about everything. You know,
yeah,
especially with
change.
only 6 days to go until Fastlane.
Yeah, there was a good build. Somewhat of a good build, I think. But I'm going to definitely wait for Nate to call in. I believe he's going to be calling here shortly. And we're supposed to be joined by Trevor Murdoch here in just a moment. He does have our number, so hopefully he'll be calling in a few minutes. But while we just wait, we'll go ahead and, I actually want to get your thoughts. I mean, with seeing two WWE Hall of Famers for the price of one, I guess you could say. We had Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair on Raw last night. Do you think that Dusty's going to be involved? Because the way this is going between Gold and Stardust, we could see the match people have been waiting to see for a couple of years now, brother versus brother.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic to say this, but I mean, that match has been written in the stars for quite some time. They've been wanting to do it for the past at least 5 years at WrestleMania, but I mean, they never. Basically, what they're doing now is the way they're setting things up is perfect. The way they would have done it back then, I don't see it panning out as well as it is going to right now. Stardust and Goldust are, I mean, they're a lot of the same, but two polar opposites when it comes to. I mean, I think they're eventually gonna break off to clear roads, coming back into.
I can definitely see Cody turning heel and keeping his Stardust character, because it is something that's more acceptable now than what Goldust's character used to be back in the 90s. And I have to believe deep down he's never going to come out and say it, but I would have to believe that after WrestleMania that maybe Goldie hangs it up for good.
I think it'd be perfect. I mean, why? If you end your career like that, then I would like to end my career. If I was in that situation with that family, I mean, how close they are, to end it with me facing my brother. Hey, man, I'll take it.
Well, I don't know. Would your brother be?
You know what I'm saying? I mean, Goldust versus Stardust in the minute. I mean, one of the matches at WrestleMania. That would be a perfect way to end Goldust's career. Cody still has a lot to go. I mean, I think he's still. I think he's 33, 35 years old. I'm not entirely sure. But, I mean, he's still, he's the man right now.
Yeah, Cody's definitely out there. I'm not going to say he's not. But,
you know what's weird? I look back at the Rhodes family's career, and you look at Dusty Rhodes, guy, the way he portrayed himself before he went and really took it up a notch with the polka dots. When he did that, that's when I think he really had that light shown on him. Beforehand, he was a megastar. I mean, everywhere he went, people loved him. But I mean, it kind of their careers, the Rhodes family, kind of seems like they are parallel to each other, because Goldust and Dustin Runnels beforehand. Wasn't that, he's an awesome wrestler, but I mean, in terms of personality, until he turned into Goldust, that wasn't shown. And I think same thing with Cody Rhodes. I don't know. He's always had that, that it factor about him. But I mean, when he turned up the velocity here with Stardust, that was something we've never seen or expected from him to ever do.
Well, I think both are extremely talented, as you've been mentioning, of course. To say that the Rhodes family legacy, quite a legacy. Each have brought each their own legacy in wrestling history, and I don't see Cody doing any different. I think he's definitely able to hit that next level and maybe be a championship contender, maybe a world heavyweight title contender in the future. Maybe even the near future, maybe later this year. You never know. He could definitely make that character much more darker and wrestling the champion later down the line, maybe at SummerSlam or Survivor Series or, hell, even the Royal Rumble next year.
I mean, you never know, but at the same time, I mean, he was the guy that I give credit to for really bringing that prestige back to the Intercontinental Championship. A few years ago, they came back with the original title, and I was actually there that night when they unveiled the old, title for the IC title at Hell in a Cell in 2011 in New Orleans. I was there, and I give a lot of credit to Cody for bringing back the prestige that it kind of lost over the years.
Well, I would have liked to hope that they kept that title around, but it's not likely it's going to happen again. I mean, I can't see them bringing it back again, but unless they still have it back, I didn't even think about that. Bad News Bear still has the title around, right?
Yeah, Wade Barrett has the title. And he's facing Dean
Ambrose. I'm saying he still has the same old-fashioned title, right?
Yes.
I'm saying it's still the old-fashioned title.
Yeah, it's still the old-fashioned one. But my favorite WWE title, you're talking about the actual, World WWE World Championship title, was the I don't know what they call it, the Golden Eagle one, with the eagle wings. That something I
not feeling good, pal? I can hear you coughing back there. You doing all right?
No, I'm doing awesome. I feel awesome, but I mean, the cough that I had just 2 weeks ago when we had Houston Carson on has caught back up to me again because Louisiana is a mysterious place, and it's one of those things where you never know when the weather is going to be when you walk out the door. It's sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, and sometimes it's a mix.
Yeah. And as far as the other bits and pieces of Fastlane go, do you like the build that they're doing between Daniel and Roman? I expect one of those two to turn heel.
I'm telling you this. Last night, Roman and Daniel beat the crap out of each other for Raw, and that in itself really raised the temperature. And I think it's if they wouldn't have done that, I don't think it would have been. I don't think many people would be. I mean, I think everybody is really looking forward to seeing what they can do. But I mean, without them really just take it out on each other last night on Raw, I mean, I'm really looking forward to that match. Not only that match, but I'm talking about John Cena versus Rusev for the U.S. Championship is going to be one for the ages. I think it's going to be. I don't think John's going to win this time. I think they're going to probably bring it to WrestleMania because it's too close for John to get out of this rivalry and just begin a new one with only 40-something days to go until WrestleMania. So I absolutely think they're going to take it to WrestleMania.
Well, I found it funny at this point for him to be wrestling for the United States title and take the title. I don't know if that fits into this particular battle. To me, looking at this fight, it's looking at it like a Hogan versus the Iron Sheik, if you will, or even Bret Hart versus Yokozuna. That type of scenario. I mean, it's not the best comparisons, but I mean, looking at it from like American battling a foreigner, does a title really need to be fit into this picture? It just doesn't feel like it needs to be a title match. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think so. I mean, no, it's perfect sense because Rusev holds that U.S. Championship, and it's kind of like John Cena getting back what he stole whatever I think he stole from the United States. I mean, the guys from from where they say now. I think he's from I used to see Bulgaria. They used to call him the Bulgarian Brute, but now it's from Russia. So I mean, he's from Russia. He's a guy that that took the United States Championship. He earned it, but I mean, the way it's putting out to be, I think it's perfect. I mean, he's going to go out and John Cena is going to go limb for limb to get the title back around his waist and get it, for the United States of America. Oh,
Okay, well, he's not Hacksaw, but I get it. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think we even talked about this last week a little bit. I think Nate was even talking that, well, we came to an agreement, too. I think you might have agreed with us in this instance for once, that this is not the end. This is actually, there'll be a part 2 at WrestleMania between these two. I don't see Cena actually in the title picture, at least for now. At least for now.
No,
I mean, at this point, it's best for them to be elevating new talent, but we'll see.
No, I think it's going to be one of those type of, finishes where none of them, it's going to be, nobody's going to win. I think it's going to be tooth and nail, and Rusev's going to come on top some way, somehow. But not I think maybe it's going to be by disqualification where John Cena wins, but Rusev's going to be the guy with, raising his hand. Or maybe they're just going to go, pig it out on each other, and both of them are going to be on the ground, and nobody's going to come up to the 10. I bet whatever way they do it, they're going to be doing it at WrestleMania. Whatever way it's going to be, because I don't see John Cena going into another rivalry with only 40 days until WrestleMania. It wouldn't make any sense. What is he going to do? I mean, it's going to be him versus Rusev, whatever way you put it. At least that's what I think. With there's so much time they have left until the show of shows.
Speaking of quick builds, I know with the Undertaker's health being obviously key and not being a big issue, will he be ready? People are predicting he will be back to face Bray Wyatt, and it will be a quick build because obviously his promos have been digs at the Undertaker. It was almost a dead giveaway, as it looked like he was putting a nail in a coffin in his promo, and they're expecting him supposedly to make a return after Fastlane. I don't know if that's going to happen, but they have a definite quick build right there. I mean, they can talk about they've been building for it for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. But when it comes to Showtime, I don't think there's anybody better than The Undertaker who can outperform any of the young talent now and keep up with them. I mean, people are going to say they're going to talk, but they're going to talk.
Yeah. Over the past years, I mean, you've seen the build for the matches against The Undertaker at WrestleMania have been really short. I mean, if you remember a few years ago with him and CM Punk, it was only 2 months to build. You had a big situation with him pouring out the urn, Paul Bearer's urn over the Raw stage. That really set some people off. And I remember speaking about that with you, when the first year Pipebomb Radio 2013. Because the WrestleMania went to, it was WrestleMania 29 in New York, New Jersey when the match happened. And I mean, over the past years, it's always been that little build, but when that shit to the match, it's always been top of the line.
Well, I got to wonder too. Do you think that this particular battle will elevate Bray Wyatt over, get him over even more as a believable new face of, I guess the new face of terror, the new face of fear, so to speak?
I think Bray Wyatt will win at WrestleMania because the reason why I say that is because I think that'll be the last nail in the Undertaker's coffin.
Do you think so?
And the reason why I say it is because Brock Lesnar beat him. That's kind of taking the future, hey man, the future's mine type of deal, and then Bray Wyatt coming in and beating him again is kind of saying, hey man, the Undertaker, I don't know how long you have, but the future's beating you out. The younger guys are taking you over, and then there's a possibility that always lurks in the corner here with Sting versus Taker, which is that dream match, that constant dream match, 24/7, 365, and it's one of those things I think it's going to happen, but at the same time, you can never be sure with that WWE, and the Undertaker is the guy that makes the decisions anyway, I think, and in some terms, but I mean, I want the match to happen before he retires.
You know, I can see it happening. I can't see. Well, let's put it this way: after a huge loss of the ending a legacy that he ended, and nobody wanted to end anyway, I can't see him losing. I can't see him losing 2 years in a row. That's not saying that he wouldn't dare put over Bray Wyatt if it were for the good of the business. Of course he would. But losing at an event where people flock to see him wrestle 2 years in a row? Hell, for 1 year for that matter, that nobody saw that coming. But for 2 years in a row, it kind of kills the build if they were to even build towards one final match between Sting and The Undertaker. And then have them both headline in Dallas, where at least Undertaker got his start, and I believe even Sting did too. I think it was Dallas or at least the Mid-Atlantic area.
No, I think Vince McMahon is always going to be the guy that has that final say so. And Vince is a huge fan, supposedly, of Bray Wyatt. And when Vince is a fan of a guy, and he kind of pushes him to the moon, in my opinion, Bray Wyatt hasn't been. Yeah, Vince McMahon says he's a fan of Bray Wyatt. He loves Bray Wyatt, but he hasn't been. I don't think Bray Wyatt has reached his full potential yet as a superstar. He can't. With all the he has a lot of time to go to be in WWE, and
he had the opportunity to get put over quite a bit, but he never got the chance to get put over because I can't really explain the reason because I don't know. But in matches, high profile matches that he's had. He's come out the loser. So I don't really know what they could do to help elevate him any further if they're going to take him serious or not, and actually give him the chance to be the new, quote unquote, the new, I don't know, demon. I guess you could say the new face of fear, the new Undertaker. If there could, there's no one that can ever replace him, but you know what I mean.
You gotta think about this too. That he can't be undefeated at WrestleMania because John Cena beat him last year, so there's no chance of him going on and saying I'm undefeated at WrestleMania. He can't be that new guy that has the opportunity to say that.
No. I'm not talking about WrestleMania in general. I'm just saying as a
I'm talking about overall. Yeah, overall, I think he has to be that new that really dark character. But I think he should have went undefeated in terms of wrestling. Every single match I think that he went into. He should have been undefeated. I think, in my opinion, in order to maintain what he has in his mind here, he should have went undefeated in every situation. Rusev, in that same fact, he should be. I don't think. You look at that guy and you see him, like, how can you defeat a guy like that? A Big Show couldn't do it. Who can? Everybody. We never had those situations. Mark Henry couldn't do it.
I think Nate can.
I think I can. What's going on, fellas?
Here, isn't it?
We're just having a conversation about, upcoming possible matches, and, we were waiting to see if our guest would call in. It doesn't appear he's going to end up making it, unfortunately. So we're just kind of focusing more so on the upcoming Fastlane and last night's Raw and anything that's been going on in the news that we can chat about, and here we are.
Okay, well, I don't know about our guest, but I know I just trudged through about 11 inches of snow down here in Virginia, so it's pretty bad in the south. So I don't know if he's located down in the south, but it's messy.
Well, that's great to hear, Nate. I hope you're locked out of your house tomorrow morning, and so you can sit inside 5 days to go until Fastlane, and you can watch the undisputed future of the WWE, Seth Rollins, be that guy, and with the authority, on top 24/7, 365, because that's the fact that remains the same every day.
You are talking about the same future that decided to reveal himself on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't want to go there, but yeah, you talking about that guy?
See that. I didn't see that, and I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry.
No, I wasn't asking if you saw it. I'm just saying he did what he did, and we'll have to eventually move on because they're gonna move on. They're not gonna bring it up. But it was a pretty funny incident. But anyways, it just shows you that even the most untouchable person can get caught.
Thank you for admitting it, Felix. You're one of the smartest guys I know.
What the hell are you talking about? I said even the most. Never mind. I think I probably walked myself into that one. Alrighty then. Anyways, as far as last night's Raw goes, overall, I was asking Austin, Nate, and I'm going to ask you. We touched on the idea between Roman and Daniel. We touched on Gold and Stardust, and Cena and Rusev, and even the possibility of an Undertaker Bray Wyatt. Overall, what were your thoughts about Monday Night Raw and the good and bad of it all?
I thought it was a solid show. Again, anytime you've got a show that's 3 hours long, unless it's the Saturday Night Live show from the other night, you're going to have some issues. But I thought they did a good job with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. They still kind of got both guys. Like, you don't really know who's the good guy, quote unquote, who's the bad guy. These are just two guys that want a shot at the title, and I really like how they're playing that. Cena and Rusev was interesting because I liked that Cena got serious, but I also think that I think maybe the beatdown went a little bit too far. But hopefully that means Rusev is going to get his payback at Fastlane.
Okay. And Austin and I were talking about the possibility of a match that's been 5 years in the making between brother versus brother. Do you see Dusty getting involved in this particular rivalry? I mean, he obviously interjected himself as dad, but do you see him going any further than that, maybe being a special guest referee, maybe just being ringside to watch the match at WrestleMania? Because it does look like, they're going to let him take the Stardust character and maybe possibly tweak it and maybe make it a little darker.
Yeah,
what do you think?
You've got to involve Dusty. Even, we've got to get at least one really good Dusty promo in the ring where he's just pleading with his son. Cody, you don't understand. You're hurting my heart, boy. The Dweem love you. Cody, you got to do the right thing. I want one big Dusty Rhodes promo like, what was it, a year ago when he had that good promo against Stephanie and Big Show ended up knocking him out? Like, that was a great moment, and I hope we get one of those.
Yes, it was. My good friend, the Big Show, Paul White, doing his best for the authority, and he knows what it is when it comes to...
Yes, but he knocked out the American Dream, baby. You can't do that.
He deserves it. When he has a Big Show, especially in that situation right there, the Big Show is doing it for his family, and you would have the same thing, Felix, so shut your mouth.
I don't agree with that, because at this point, everybody has a choice, and therefore, Paul White, the Big Slow, he's just all about the green. Who are you talking about? He's all about the Benjamins.
Exactly. Couldn't said it any better.
Well, speaking of,
I'm not saying that you're right. I'm just saying that's his reasoning behind it. So
exactly. I'm not disagreeing with you. That's the main reason. That is the reason.
Nate, I think I'm going to see myself out of this conversation because I think I'm just digging myself deeper.
You are. You're a whole 6 feet under where you should be at the end of your life.
Shut up. Nobody's asking you. I was talking to Nate, the other adult in the room here.
Hey, I had a question for you, though, Felix, because, we're talking about legends. My favorite segment on Raw, probably other than the Brian Reigns stuff, was Ric Flair and Triple H. I really enjoyed that segment.
That actually, I thought it was well thought out because obviously they made the big hype for Sting's response, and they gave us a stunt double, but basically he accepted, and to bring somebody back who has such a history, going back nearly 30 years with Sting, and the battles that they had, Triple H, he summed it up. Sting really made a career out of his wars with Ric Flair. Ric Flair made this man. Those 60-minute matches at Clash of Champions and there's so many other places, the Great American Bash, and I can name them all. I just can't think of them all off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but
and Felix, remember the fact here that Triple H said last night. I was actually talking to him earlier this morning, my good friend Paul, and he was saying that last night he summed it up by saying these few words of Ric Flair. He said it in front of everybody. Triple H is not Ric Flair, but Ric Flair is not the game, and that fact is the same fact that will carry this Sunday.
In the great words of the legendary Gorilla Monsoon, will you stop?
I'm telling you what's going to happen. You keep interrupting me.
Will you stop?
That same fact continues because that's how he's going to beat the Sting, because Sting might be the Scorpion, he might be the Vigilante, the Icon, but when it comes to the game, if you don't have to play it, you're not going to
Vigilante anymore. They've referred to him as a franchise. They referred to him as the icon. The way they're building this now, they're reigniting the old WWE, WCW rivalry. And to be honest, I think that's kind of stupid. But I get it. They needed something else to kind of get this thing up there, and the confrontation between Sting and Triple H will definitely want to be the highlights, the highly anticipated, if you will, matches, or not even matches, but face-offs at Fastlane, which will lead into a match at WrestleMania. I think it's a good move. I look forward to it. Personally, like I said, I will have agreed that I would have preferred to see Undertaker Sting, but this is good too.
I agree. I think it'll be a good match. You know, Triple H, for whatever you want to say about him, he always delivers on the big stage. But I do agree. I do agree with you, Felix, that I think, you know, they could have, like, this WCW versus WWE angle doesn't really work for me. I think it would have been better if you go all the way back to when the Authority lost at Survivor Series, and the way you bring them back is by having Sting say, I want Hunter. You know what I mean? I want that match, you know, at WrestleMania, and have him go to Cena, and Cena says, okay, I'll do this for you because I have so much respect for you. And then that way you get Sting and Hunter, you know, in this confrontation.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, do you think that in that match we'll see any involvement from the likes of maybe Ric Flair, or possibly even Undertaker? Either one of you guys think that?
I don't think it should be anything during the match, but I think after the match, and I don't know who said this, it might have been Court Bauer or you know, one of the guys over at Live Audio Wrestling or my buddy Marcus, but somebody was saying, and I thought this was an amazing idea, that at the end of that match, you have, you know, Sting wins, of course, because that's what's going to happen, Austin. Sting wins the match, and you have the Authority just run in, and you know, you got Big Show and Kane, and they're all jumping Sting, and then the lights go out, and they come back on, and it's Sting and Taker in the ring. They clear the ring, they stare at each other, and then the lights go out, and when they come back on, Taker's gone, and Sting's just there by himself, and it's like, okay, I'll see you next year.
Well, see, that's what we were talking about, too, the possibility that those two could have one more match, and, well, make it their last and final match of both of their careers, hang it up, and with no regrets. I mean, it's time to move on, as much as it sucks and people have something to say about the streak, and will always have something to say about it. It's time to move on and realize that legacy he built, it's something that he is an accolade he'll always have that nobody will ever touch, but it didn't define his entire career. I don't believe that, because he invented so many different types of matches. He was a part of so many firsts. His character was without a doubt one of the greatest creations that Vince McMahon ever made, and without a doubt one of the most successful, because nobody expected it to reach the heights it did. And
you're
without a doubt,
mentioning
Vince
McMahon's actually on he's on the cover of the latest Muscle Fitness magazine. 69 years old, and he looks like that. Amazing.
Shoot. He looks better than people our age, huh, Nate?
I think so. I mean, I know you're working out there, Felix, but I don't think you're ready for Vince yet.
No. He would
no chance
work
in
circles
hell.
around me. And
no
then
chance
some.
in hell.
No chance in hell. At least not right now. Maybe when I'm 69, I'll look that good.
Me too.
But for now, I'm happy where
too.
I am at 36 and working my ass off to get where I need to be. So,
you know,
let me ask you this, Felix. Excuse me, Austin. Real quick. I just wanted to touch one last thing on Sting and Taker, because one of the ideas that I've been kind of tossing around is, you know, we don't really know what type of shape Taker's in, and next year Sting will be a year older. And as great as the lead-up would be, I don't know how good the match would be. How would you feel if their last match was a tag match against, say, the Authority or somebody like that, and they go out on top together, you know, the WCW hero and the Phenom?
You know, Undertaker turns 50 years old this year. Sting will turn 56, and by next year, of course, they'll both be in their 50s. I really believe training, taking time to prepare mentally, physically, they could put on one hell of a final match. However, if that's not in the cards, then I would be okay with those two teaming up together if it had to come down to it. That's how I would address that. I don't know. I still would. Most of us as fans would still want to see Sting versus The Undertaker, just for the fact that they are both in the same company now. But I want to bring to you guys' attention that our guest of honor has called in. He is on hold now, so I'm going to go ahead and bring him on live. Maybe he'd like to share input on this particular matchup and go from there. Good evening, Mr. Murdoch. How you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good. Welcome to the show. We were just sitting here chatting about dream matches at WrestleMania. What do you think? Do you think that we'd ever see a match between Undertaker and Sting?
Personally, I mean, I would love to see it. I just don't think we ever will. For the simple fact is, in that match, somebody's got to lose. You got to have a winner or loser in that match. You can't.
That's true.
You can't just throw it to a no contest or a double DQ. And I think both of those guys are in a spot in their career that it wouldn't hurt them that if they lost. Yeah. But I think it would more like bruise their egos if they lost right now.
That makes sense.
If that makes any sense.
No, it does. I mean, you're right. They're both, without a doubt, top stars and icons in the annals of professional wrestling, and will always be recognized as that. After the heartbreaking loss and the streak ending last year, anything is in the cards now. So yeah, I definitely can understand where you're coming from. You're looking at it as well, and that's a point we probably failed to look at, guys. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and focus our attention on Trevor Murdoch, where he's come from, where he's going, how he's doing. I was looking into your career a little bit, and you were mentioning that you talked about the fact that you had gone into work with the legendary Handsome Harley Race. And I got to ask, was that intimidating to get involved with such a legendary tough man? I mean, without a doubt, one of the toughest men in wrestling history, without a doubt.
It was completely nerve-wracking. You've got quite a few goals when you meet a man like that. Number one, you just want to survive the tryout. You just want to be able to go. You want to get him to say, okay, I'm going to at least let you in so I can beat the hell out of you and see what you're really made of. It was like that constantly, and it wasn't a pressure that he put on us. It was a pressure that we put on ourselves to try to be like Harley and do the things that he did. When we were going through training and we started doing matches, we would try to go an hour long if we could. We never did. I mean, we did in tag matches at the school, but the longest match I've ever had in front of people was 45 minutes, and I couldn't imagine having to go an hour every single night. So we were all busting our asses trying to get as close as possible to even close to that. You know what I mean? There was a big target, a big margin there that we all wanted to strive to get to.
Now, being in a place and being in a training facility with Harley Race, that definitely gives you an edge, where anywhere you go. It's kind of like being trained by a Stu Hart, being from the dungeon. When somebody hears that, it's like, hey, man, he has to be good. Being trained by Harley Race, what do you think was the most important thing, or one of the most important things that he's taught you?
I believe it was to stick to my guns and keep wrestling the way I wrestle. He told me that, this business does change, and you're gonna have to change with it. But you don't have to change completely with it, where you're not who you used to be. He was always very he pushed very hard. You're only as good as your own word. A man's only as good as your word. And that kind of scenario, that kind of teaching, kind of carried along with everything else. If you're going to be a wrestler in this business and have my name on your back, you better be fucking tough. You better be honest. You better be a man's man. Because if you're going to tell people I was trained by Harley Race, they expect a certain type of individual. They expect a certain type of wrestler. And if you give that individual anything less, you are not a Harley Race guy.
What I'm interested in, Trevor, you talk about that respect and that being ingrained from working with Harley, and I'm wondering where you came into professional wrestling in terms of from a outsider's perspective to actually getting in the business. What was that transition like, and were you always a fan of the sport?
I was always, yes. I loved pro wrestling since I was a kid. I can remember my brother waking me up on Sunday mornings and me running into the living room, sitting in my underwear with a bowl of cereal, watching world-class wrestling. Those were my Sundays. When I look back at my childhood and some of my more happier moments, those were the moments I remember. And then as you get older, you almost think that it's a pipe dream. You know what I mean? There weren't billboards, there weren't signs that said, if you want to become a pro wrestler, come here. Like today, all you got to do is hop on the internet and put in pro wrestling, and probably 100 schools pop up, and a guy can go, okay, well then I can go there, and that's where I start my dream. Back then, there wasn't. It was still a pretty close-knit society. Don't get me wrong; they had the power plant, and I believe WWE had a developmental, but it really wasn't a development. I think it was Memphis at the time, or no, it wasn't. Yeah, I think it was. But even then, you still didn't know about I didn't know about the connections. So it was really something I wanted to do, but had no idea how to get into it. And I kind of put that dream on the back burner, and I went to Job Corps and became a certified welder. And I was like, if anything, if I ever do become a wrestler, at least I'll have something to fall back on when I fall on my face. I got out of Job Corps. And I went and I started working for J.S. Alvarisi there in St. Louis, the same company that built the Arch. And my brother had started with a small independent company there in St. Louis, and he brought me in to do security. And I was like, oh, my God, this is it. This is my way. This is, I thought those guys were gods, because they were in there in the ring bumping around and making people, boo, yay, boo, And I was always this big. I was blessed as a child when it come to height and size. I've been 6'3" since I was 15 years old.
Wow.
Pissed my brother off to no end. How can you be this damn young? But he would bring me in the ring, and I was the guy's tackling dummy, and they taught me how to bump. But I took, I can't tell you how many times I took Road Warrior and Hawk's finish, where the guy picks him up on the shoulder and gets clothesline from the top. Well, I had one guy wanted to do a spin kick off the top. The other guy was like, I can do a neck breaker off the top. And I'm continuously getting bumped around. And I did this for like 3 or 4 months until finally a wrestler no-showed. And the promoter's looking around to fill a spot, and he goes, you've been training, you're going to wrestle tonight. And that was my first match. That was my first, like, oh my God, this is it. And to be able to go from a fan student to actually stepping in front of the ring and having to actually perform in front of the people is an amazing, scariest feeling I've ever had in my life. Because it's either put up or shut up now. Because now you've talked to everybody, you've told everybody, I'm going to be a wrestler. I want to be a wrestler. Well, now you're in the ring and the bell's rung. Now you're going to have to do something with this shit. And slowly but surely I started, including adding different moves. And I thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I was just like every indie guy in the world. I thought I was the shit. I was the next WWE World Champion right here.
Then you actually became a tag champion, so that's definitely a good thing.
If I would have stayed on that path and not met Harley, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I'm just letting you know that right now. Because I was the drizzling, throw a little chocolate on that, the drizzling shit until I met Harley Race.
Now, let me ask you, in your opinion, do you believe now, because back in the day, obviously, WWE, WCW, these guys used a lot of enhancement talent. Do you think that concept should be brought back in wrestling, like on Raw or even Impact Wrestling or even Ring of Honor, that they should bring the enhancement talent back and help build up the guys? Or do you think that concept should pretty much all dead and buried?
I don't think it's dead and buried. I mean, and this is just for me, from my psychology and opinion point, I think enhancement talent is great to bring people in. But once that name has been established, and what I mean by that is nowadays, once you see a guy on TV and he's got entrance music and he's got his name under him as he's walking down to the ring, he's a part of the company. You know what I mean? There is no guys that, well, maybe this guy might get a shot. You know, it's WWE has been in such a routine for so many years that they have, you can tell if a guy's working for the company or if he's not. And people may not be able to exactly pinpoint exactly that with verbiage, but they know that, oh, well, that guy's going to lose. And it's because, you know what I mean? So, in my opinion, that enhancement talent is no more. He's not an enhancement. He's not enhancing anybody. He's only just a garnish on a salad. But if you
that's a good point.
If you bring that enhancement talent in for a guy who's just, this is his debut, then it makes sense that for that first match, maybe two. But once he's been established as a WWE superstar, in my opinion, enhancement talent isn't needed. Your enhancement talent is almost within your roster because there is no middle guy anymore. There's either top guys or bottom mid, low card guys. There's no middle. There's no transition.
Okay.
Now, going further in your career, after you trained Harley, a couple of years go by, you had the opportunity in 2002, I believe, to go to Japan. Pro Wrestling Noah, how did you get that opportunity? And was it culture shock?
Hello?
Are you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, no. I thought we lost connection with you. No, he asked if when your travels to...
It went dead on me. I didn't hear anything.
Oh. Did you want to try to repeat the question, Austin?
Absolutely. Okay, so 2002, a few years after you started training Harley, you had the opportunity to go to Japan. Pro Wrestling Noah, how was that like, and how did you get the opportunity? Was it a culture shock?
It was a huge culture shock for the simple fact is I'm a redneck. I'm pretty much the definition of a redneck without the dirtiness. You know what I mean? I still shower and clean. I like regular foods. I'm set in my own ways. I have a pattern just like anybody else. But then to go to Japan, that is completely thrown off kilter. You know what I mean? But you have to keep your mind open to that stuff. You have to keep telling yourself that I am living right now at this moment in somebody else's world. This is not a visit to them. This is how they live. This is life.
Yeah.
They don't know any different. And what might be weird to me is normal to them. And I'm sure there's, I was telling myself, I'm sure there's things I do that them Japanese guys look at me and go, what the hell is wrong with this idiot? You know what I mean? You have to look at it both ways. Not to mention, I was telling myself that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I am not only going to Japan on somebody else's dime, but I'm learning from some of the most talented people in my business in the world and some of the hardest working people in this business. I mean, there's not too many Japanese guys that you can really say aren't hard workers in the ring. You've never, you know what I mean? The real, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Most of the guys in Japan are really just, strong guys.
Well, they're extremely dedicated and focused, and they know that, they're smart enough to know that it's not just them out there, so they prepare themselves for anybody and everybody. And I wanted that. That was the thing. It scared the hell out of me because I heard stories of the 500 squats and the 300 push-ups and the 3 minutes a day neck bridging. and the 100 and 150 bumps you had to take a day. For a guy, that doesn't train not even a quarter of that, to hear that was a daily training regimen scared the hell out of me, because I didn't know if I could make it. I knew I was stubborn enough to want to do it, and I wouldn't quit, but sometimes the body just ain't there for it. But
who gave you the opportunity?
Noah? Noah gave me the opportunity. And the thing was, I went over there, and I'd done a tour for 3 weeks. And it was a great tour. Everything was awesome. Last match of the tour, me and Bison Smith are wrestling Jun Akiyama and Saito. And they're pushing those guys to the tag belts. So, we're semi-main, and they're going over on us. But we got to give them a good, strong match. Well, I'm in there with Akiyama, and he is just drilling me with these forearms. So I'm hammering him back. At the time, Vader was over there. He always told us, them Japanese guys hit you, you hit them back harder. You know what I mean? You let them know you're not going to get knocked around. So I'm straight with Akiyama, and my forearms are just steadily getting, harder and harder. I'm getting mad because he is knocking the piss out of me. And I finally come back in the last one, and I just throw everything I got. And I catch Akiyama with my elbow, the point of my elbow, right on the chin. And it knocks him plumb out. He just does the nasty plunge and falls backwards. And I knew I was in trouble when the whole crowd all at once goes, ooh.
And they don't say much.
I look around and I go, shit. So on the videotape, you see me run over there, because I look at Bison and I go, what do I do? He goes, well, pick him up. I was okay, yeah, I better do that, yeah. I put him in a chin lock, and I'm rubbing his neck. The whole time I'm working this chin lock, and I'm just rubbing his neck, trying to get the blood flowing, And you can see it visibly on the tape. He starts to come to. And when he does, the anger, you don't hear words, you hear groans like, because this young boy just knocked out Jun Akiyama, former world champion, world tag champion. The guy's carried every belt. So you see him starting to shake, and he gets up, and he hooks me for a side suplex. And he jumps, and he bends back so much that he drops me right on my head as my knees shoot past my head and hit the mat. And you watch him stumble out and make the tag out, and he says something to Saito, and Saito proceeds to come in and kick the shit out of me. Akiyama was so mad at me when we got in the back locker room. He cussed at me in English, so I understood what he was saying to me for me to know how mad he was.
Wow.
I thought my career in Japan was over. I come back to Harley, I was like, all right, here's what happened. I think I'm done. He goes, oh, yeah, you're done. Yeah, son, you done a good one there, yeah. And a year later, they called me and said, out of nowhere, they're like, hey, you want to come to the dojo? And I was like, yes, yeah, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. And that turned into the next 6 months of 500 squats, 300 push-ups, 150 bumps a day.
Wow.
But I was in the best shape of my life. Nobody could blow me up, and I could do things in the ring that I never knew I could do.
That's freaking awesome.
Yes. Let's stay overseas, and let's talk about your time in India with TNA's Ring of King project. Roscoe Jackson. What was that experience like? And some of the similarities and differences from your time in Japan.
Well, the first thing when I thought about India was the thing that popped in my head was I heard stories from William Regal and some of the other guys about a trip to India where they got so sick and they were crapping everywhere the whole tour, and And that was the first thing that popped up in my head. I was like, oh, my God, that's going to be like 2 weeks of just ungodly poop pains and just some vicious stomach things. And once I realized that probably wasn't going to be the issue, I got super excited because I've never been to India. There's not a lot of wrestling there. I know the population there is extremely high, so I knew that there would be a lot of people. And when you got there, you had a sense of feeling humble because when I remember getting off the plane and going through security and all that, and I go outside and I open up this door and this heat wave of just heat just hit me, and just the sounds of noise, I mean cars and people honking, and I mean there were a ton of people, and I'm not talking just a couple, I mean where there was just a lot of people. I'm talking shoulder to shoulder. Our security had to push people, like walls of people, out of the way to get to the cab. And you're thinking, oh, man, this is great. This is awesome. But then you hop in the cab, and you're driving down dirt roads, and you're looking at communities where you're looking at a family that's living in a shack to right next to it to a house that's a very nice house to a guy living in a family living in a shack made out of tin roofing right next to that. There's it's two ways in India. Either you have it or you don't. I mean, there is no middle class. It makes you feel very humble in where you are at home and what you have at home. Because some of these people, this is their lives, and that's a dirt floor with a tin wall. And that, to me, that humbled me. On the wrestling end of it, they're no different than any overseas fan. Mo, you're on. I've been talking to you too, right, Mo?
Oh no, Mo's not on this show. He's actually on Thursday's show.
I thought that was Mo I was talking to. Well, when it comes to an overseas crowd, the reason why I was bringing it up was overseas is always better than here in the States. They don't get it as often, so their crowds are a whole lot louder. Now you can only imagine a country that hasn't had wrestling in years.
Yeah.
None. Zero. And now you're bringing stars that they've seen on TV, whether they be from WWE, TNA, whatever. They've seen them on TV. They treated us like movie stars over there. I mean, it was an amazing feeling. And the fans, you talking about, you couldn't get close to them because they would either pull at your hair or at your shirt wanting just a little piece of you, which was scary and exciting, all in the same phrase. But it's a very humbling, wonderful experience to wrap that up.
I can imagine. And fast forwarding on to your time, obviously, with WWE, and you got to work, of course, a little bit with TNA as well. And how would you sum up, if you could sum up that whole experience with WWE and TNA up in one word, what would you use?
Oh, man. Life-changing experience, dude, because there really is no one word to it. I mean, you can't sum up both of those companies and those times. You learned something from both. I gained something from both on the positive and negative end of it. As much as guys hate WWE and their politics and what they put people through, you wouldn't be talking to 99% of us if it wasn't for that company. And they bring you to a national audience. They may work you to death. They may take advantage of you as a person. They may make you do stupid things. But as much as you hate to say it, the return on that is a fat paycheck and national publicity. WWE obviously gave me more than TNA when it came to opportunities, but TNA still did, they still reminded people that A, I wasn't the one that died, and B, yes, I'm still wrestling. It's amazing how many promoters I talk to, they go, you're still wrestling? Well, I never stopped just because I'm not on TV anymore, or I'm not wrestling every single flipping weekend, it doesn't mean I've stopped. It means you guys are calling less.
Yeah.
Now, being in a place like WWE, it has to be, you're just watching it all my life. It seems like you have to be, especially, I guess, backstage as a performer, as a businessman. You got to be at the top of the game, top of your game all day, and in front of everybody. How was it like backstage during that time when you came in?
It was that exact way. I mean, everybody, for me, I didn't have any friends when I came in. I mean, I didn't have any people that I came up into the business with that were there. The only person I really knew personally was Big Biz, and that was because Harley brought him in for a couple shows before Viz went back for his third run, I think, at the time. And I only knew him because of Harley and a couple shows. But other than that, I didn't know anybody. And you have to understand that everybody there is looking for a better spot, unless you're John Cena, and you can't get any higher than old JC. But
that's true.
Everybody's trying to get elevated. So at times there are individuals that would stooge you out if they thought you were doing something that wasn't, I wouldn't say appropriate, but sometimes, man, I'm not saying we do bad things, but you just wanted to be you. You just wanted to be relaxed and goof off. And sometimes people took that behavior and would twist it and tell it a different way to make you look bad. And for me, that was one of the things that was difficult for me. I never felt like I was on a team. I always felt like I was always fighting for myself. And when you're only fighting for yourself, that means you're not helping out anybody but yourself. But when you're constantly having to watch your back and you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells, you have no choice but to be defensive and protective and to take care of yourself and look out for you. And that's not what I thought it was all about once you got to the top. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, we were all going to hold hands and smell roses and go, oh, well, it's your turn to be top guy. No, I never thought it was like that. But I certainly didn't think that I was constantly going to be so judged by every mistake. There was no learning process for me. I got thrown right into the pit. There was no developmental. I went straight from the Indies to 6 weeks later, I'm WWE Tag Team Champion. I'm one of the last guys who's done that.
Wow.
It was very difficult to try to go into the number one company in the world and, figure out all the inner workings and then dodge all the backstage politics and figure out who to be with and who to hang out with and who not to hang out with. On top of that, I don't kiss ass very well. It's just not in my DNA. Not to mention, I'm a Harley Race guy. Harley Race never kissed anybody's ass. He had the best matches every fucking night, and that made sure that he was the top guy. So if it worked for him, why can't it work for me? And that's how I felt. And it may have been stubborn. I may have been bullheaded about it. But I ain't kissing nobody's ass. I ain't shining nobody up. If I just tell it like I see it, work hard, and have the best matches out there, I'm gonna be a top guy. And that's how I felt. May not have been the best business strategy, but that's how I went about it.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing, when I've talked to guys that have worked for both TNA and the WWE, one of the things that kind of recurs and keeps coming back is in TNA, yes, you might have a little bit more freedom, but you don't have the machine behind you. You don't have as many eyes watching you, and, there is, I don't want to say a lack of leadership, but there's, it's not as organized as the WWE. What was your experience like in TNA? Because I really think that they could have done a lot more with you.
I agree with you on that aspect when it comes to leadership. Not to mention there's not enough wrestling people that know wrestling and how to do wrestling in charge up there. If you haven't stepped into a ring before, how can you book a show? How can you put together a show and know that it's going to be successful? That's where WWE is very powerful, and the fact is they've got enough people in their circle that have been in the ring, that have done what they try to do on TV at times, that they've got enough people that tells them that's not going to work. If you do it this way, though, it might work. TNA doesn't have that. They don't have that plethora of knowledge. So they've got people that think they know wrestling, which is, in my opinion, almost worse for somebody to think they know about wrestling that's in control. And that's how I felt when I was there. And this is just my experience and my experience alone. I can't judge how everybody, TNA treats everybody else, but they were putting me in there with top guys where I was getting attention, but I was always the guy to get them over. For example, I got thrown into an I Quit match with Booker T. And he beat me, but there was no build up. It was just promo match. That's it. What does that do for anybody, especially the guy that just came in that's trying to get elevated? Because at least when you bring my name up, people go, I remember that guy. That's not his name, but I remember that guy. And I'm able to go into the ring with your top guys and have good matches with them, back to Booker T, and then he beats me. I didn't elevate Booker any more than that, and he didn't elevate me. Nobody got anything positive out of that. But it was somebody in the back that thinks they know pro wrestling, says, Trevor been on TV. When Booker beats Trevor, it'll be a good win. No. It's a totally different program with a totally different name. The only thing they recognize is my face. And that's the kind of crap I'm talking about that's going on, that's killing this business. This stupid shit like that. I mean, my son could tell you that situation wouldn't work, and he's 9 years old. How is it you're going to have people with millions of dollars can't figure it out?
That's true.
So much talent waits. Like, I don't know if you saw on online earlier tonight, Samoa Joe announced that, he's no longer going to be with the company. It's like, if you can't find a way to make that guy a star, what are you doing?
Well, and not to mention, that either Jeff's going to find a way or WWE's going to find a way, because you can see that he's got potential and could be that guy. And when they do, they're going to sit back and go, well, shit, we missed the boat on Joe. Yeah, you missed the boat. You're an idiot, is what you are. It's really, it's so silly what they're doing with the business. And the fact that they're not using common sense. And the fact that they had a locker room full of extremely talented guys. And that's starting to peter out now.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you now. I know that you're... I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was my TNA rant session.
Oh. Well, no, I was going to ask you, because I know that you're involved still, as you mentioned, and those of us who follow you on Facebook are aware, you are still wrestling. You are still on the indies from time to time doing appearances and so forth. Do you have any upcoming shows? And if so, how can your fans keep up with what you're doing? Obviously, there is a Facebook. Do you have Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat? I don't know what else the hell they have on there that people use that... all that
Brother,
good stuff.
I'm redneck. I used to have a Twitter, but I somehow forgot my password, and then I'm not associated with the email anymore, so it won't let me in. So you can get back at me on Facebook. Yeah, so I just totally abandoned that. But you can catch me up on Facebook. Next March 7th, I'm going to be in, I believe it's New York or Pennsylvania for the big-time event. It's going to be a huge event. There's I think 30 names, 40 names that are going to be there signing autographs.
Sweet.
March 28th, I'm going to actually be back here in Eldon, Missouri, where I live at, for New Breed Wrestling, putting on a show in my hometown. I'm you know what, man, actually I'm starting to pick up and do more and more shows. I just did a show for High Risk Wrestling in Illinois, which had main evented with Tommaso Ciampa and Moose, had Michael Elgin on there.
Nice.
Really good show. You know, I just want to have, that's the one thing I love about indies, and I know some guys don't like working me because they want to do more spots, but I like to do shit that makes people believe what I'm doing. I get a natural high and thrill when I hear people go, ooh, damn, Murdoch just knocked the shit out of him. You know, you don't get those reactions anymore. When's the last time you watched a wrestling match and said, God damn, he knocked the piss out of him?
That's true.
You mentioned a guy like Michael Elgin. You and him would have that's a match of the, that's a dream match for me. I don't know if it happened yet, but you and Elgin need to have something, together.
Well, we'll have to see, man. He's a good guy. I like Michael. He came down to Harley's camp before he got his big ROH push. I knew he was going to be something, so I'm good to see him doing positive things.
Now, as far as anything else goes, do you see yourself getting involved in what seems to be a very popular thing now, and that's getting into doing your own podcast? Is that something that could be in the foreseeable future for yourself?
You know what? I have thought about it, and I've had a couple people ask me about it. I don't know. I don't think I'm dedicated enough to something like that. I'd rather people still have interest in me, and Felix, have you guys call me and go, hey, tell me a story. You told us this one and this one last time. Now tell us another one. It still keeps me fresh, and it keeps me out there, and I don't have to work as hard. So.
Well, I wanted to mention one last comment before we let you go. This coming Thursday night, Oscar and Mo are actually going to pay tribute to their partner Nelson, and you're more than welcome to call in and share a memory of working with him at any time if you'd like. I just wanted to give you a heads up about that because we're definitely trying to spread the word for their show that they're doing a Nelson Frazier tribute show on Thursday night.
Well, please shoot me the number and let me know the time, and I would. I've got a couple stories that I'd love to tell about Big Vis. I love that man. And I've got plenty of reasons why. Fair enough.
On behalf of my team here, Austin and Nate, we want to thank you for taking time tonight and chatting with us.
Absolutely.
And, you've got an incredible sense of humor and a great outlook on just the world of professional wrestling. And why not? I mean, you've got to experience a lot. For all we know, after wrestling, you might even take up stand-up comedy for all we know. Just saying, it could be a backup.
I don't know if I'm that entertaining. I just got to watch my language, man. I was realizing I dropped a lot of F-bombs on your show. Holy crap.
It's all right. It's not the first time, trust me. Probably won't be the last.
Right on.
We were probably feeling the way you felt when Akiyama came back to the locker room.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, boys, I was scared. No, I mean, I'm not going to joke at you. You got to think, I'm a young man. I'm still primed, and I'm going, oh, my God, he's going to kill me. Not only is my career over, I'm going home in a box. There's nobody here to protect me. Hey, Harley, can I drive to your house? No, kid, you're on your own. Oh, shit.
But, I definitely want to look to maybe bring you back in the future, maybe somewhere down the line later in 2015, and just bring you back and find out what you've been up to. And if you got some more stories to share, we can definitely do a part 2 with you. I can definitely see that happening.
Right on, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. We hope you enjoy your night, and, again, thanks for sharing your story with us.
You bet, guys. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
You too.
That was a lot of fun, and what a great way
Amen.
we lost Nate there too. I'll call back. a great way to. I think we went a little bit ass backwards this time around because we talked about Raw and Fastlane, and then our guest calls in, but that's okay. It ended really well. He had some great stories to tell, and like I said, he's got an incredible sense of humor, and he was on point and definitely knew how to deliver those zingers, if you will, and just working in Japan, I can imagine how scared to death he was. But
and that's why I bring up those stories, because in Japan, I mean, everybody has a story. If they've been there, they have a story, and that has never changed with me. Guys who talk about, I mean, Bret Hart, who was on Pipebomb Radio earlier this year, has the stories in Japan. I mean, him and Dynamite Kid had some awesome matches. Him and Dynamite Kid, and just, I mean, so I can name off. I mean, every single guy who's been to Japan always has a story to bring back and tell. Hey, man, this isn't. And they all say, man, that this is a different world than what we're living in. I mean, Japan, they're in Earth, but I mean, when you go there, it's a whole different universe when it comes to wrestling. And I mean, the crowd, from the way people seem to work there, I mean, it's different. It's unique. It's quite the experience. And I say to people, when they have this storytelling like no other. I call him a blackjack because Blackjack Mulligan, who's been on the show time and time and time again, we bring him on for a reason, because he can say this and say so much. And I remember every single time that I said this on Facebook on one of my social media machines, a couple weeks ago, I said, in Blackjack Mulligan, we have him on, so many times in the past 3 years, and he comes on and says he can only be on for 30 minutes and ends up talking to us for 2 hours. Because there's so much to go over. And the same thing with Trevor Murdoch. I see him coming on 2, 3, 4 times and more again, in the future. Hope so. He's an awesome guy. Awesome.
Agreed. Nate, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was one of the more fun. I mean, all the interviews that we do are fun, but that was just really fun. Trevor, like you said, he's got a good perspective. He's got a sense of humor, and he's honest. And, a lot of guys are... a lot of active guys especially, will watch what they say. But, I liked to hear what he had to say about his time in the WWE and about his time in TNA. And, that Akiyama story is literally one of the top 5 funniest wrestling stories I've ever heard.
Absolutely, absolutely. Akiyama's a guy that you can't mess with. Well, that's probably the majority of the guys in Japan. I mean, they'll kick your head off and fly in the 4th row.
Yes, sir. And as I mentioned, guys, that goes out to you guys as well. If you guys have time, this Thursday night, the guys are paying tribute to Nelson. They're gathering together a bunch of friends of his and even fans who have memories that want to share. I know, obviously, we're going to try to see if we can get Trevor to come back on, and I believe Tom Pritchard and a couple of others are going to call in. And it's going to be a nice little tribute show to pay tribute to Nelson, and his many incarnations is Mabel, King Mabel, Viscera, Big Daddy V, and so forth. But
how's that going to work, though? Because we'll have 2 Mo's on, right?
I thought that was freaking hilarious. Because we had him on Nachi Mama's radio show a couple of months ago, and coincidentally, guys, obviously both shows are run on this network and have the same number to call in. So I could see the confusion. I can understand. I just thought that was like, wait a minute, what show does he think he's on?
That was great.
But no, I mean, it's cool. I mean, we laugh it off. We have fun. He's talked to me before. That's what I'm saying. I've scheduled him. I've been in contact with him to help with Thursday's show as well as our show, and it's simple mistake, no big deal. But we will be getting together to set up our final guest for the month of February as we are approaching WrestleMania season. I know we have one big guest that we have lined up for March already. Austin knows who it is. Nate, I will send you a message as to let you know who it is, but not going to reveal anything just yet. We got a big guest coming. He's definitely a legend. Other than that, I think we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap. We've touched on everything tonight, and go ahead and just focus on Thursday's show, and then, of course, next week, we will keep you updated as who our guests will be, as we always do. And if there's anything further from you guys, any final thoughts?
Actually, I gotta say this. You said, calling it a rap. Last week on Much Wrong's radio show, I was pretty offended by what Oscar said about me. After you, I don't know why I did this, but I mean, you relayed my comments from last week's show, but I mentioned, Eminem, my good friend, my really good close friend Eminem, writing a song about me, saying I'm the real Slim Shady. Appreciate Eminem. Shout out Dog Cat. But I mean, talking about Oscar, what he said to me, man, I don't really like. It's pretty disrespectful.
I don't think so, because at this point he said, look, if I'm going to bring my fat ass anywhere, climb in the ring, and be singing, or even wrestling, this kid needs to really get, he needs to get schooled up on the history of rap, and you know what, he would just take you to school.
And also, the time is at 10 p.m., okay? Gosh.
Don't hate because you ain't a player like him and be out there holler and been doing all his rapping, and I got to say, and even you guys can agree, Oscar can throw some rhymes together just within a drop of a hat and be like, damn, you thought of that already? And he threw it together and it flows in just naturally for him, and that's just freaking awesome. And I got to throw it out there before we call it close that Oscar and Mimi are coming down to my neck of the woods. We're going to go check out Lucha Underground this Saturday night. I will definitely have some news about that next week.
Oh, so
it'll be my first Lucha Underground event. What's that?
Make your debut. This is when you're making your debut as El Jefe to fight Alberto Del Rio?
Ooh, that's a good point. I wouldn't want him to think that I'm trying to take his name or anything. El Patron. Call me El Jefe.
El Jefe.
No, I thought that would be Dario Cueto, though.
Muchacho Man. Come on.
Muchacho.
I'm
a man. I'm a man. Ooh, yeah. I'm a man.
Absolutely.
It should be pretty damn interesting. I definitely think so. Well, on behalf of my team here, you guys have a great week. Keep an eye out for Nate's show, and keep an eye out for Austin's incredible lack of reality when it comes to Seth Rollins, but that's another story we'll get into next week.
Lack of reality.
You guys have a great night.
Have a nice night.
Have a nice night, guys. On behalf of my team, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Pipebomb Radio, signing off.
I ain't no hit cowboy.